I was a little over-optimistic yesterday when I thought that the twist in these sill timbers was going to be something that I could deal with and work out. So first thing I did before we get too deep in the project was to get everything laid out here and to see if it actually is going to be possible for it to get together. I've got 3 joints roughly put together, but it's all coming to a head here. The chickens, the timber framing chickens, have come home to roost, and it's not going to happen. That is not going to, simply not going to go together. There's just no way around it. So all of this was for naught. Lesson learned. You cannot cut green timbers and store them for 3 years and let them dry and twist and check and expect yourself to be able to put them back together. So that's very disappointing. No question about it. But so what do we do about it? There's only one thing, only one way you can look at this is that you gained, or I gained, valuable experience from what not to do. I gained experience from the joinery, and of course each time I do this it gets better and better, and there were some things here that I was not happy with. That's the only way you can look at it. If not, it just becomes too discouraging, and it's easy just to turn your back on it and walk away and not do it. So on the bright side is I've got some really nice firewood here for next fall, and the obvious thing, or the next step is we need some raw material. And there it is. This is the raw material. This tree is a mother, meaning it's a Doug fir. It's probably about 32 inches at the base. And it's a nice straight stick with only a few limbs up to about 40 feet. And it's a mother, meaning it's got a split top. It's got 2 tops growing out of it. This is not a real valuable marketable tree, but what it will do is it will provide some beautiful timbers from the bottom, very clear without any knots. And it will also provide the top section a good chunk of a couple cords of firewood. Should be able to get out of that. And these limbs will provide some very much needed mulch for Mrs. Wranglerstar's garden. You know, the thought of doing this over and redoing this a 3rd time is discouraging. But I thought to myself, you know, looking at the big picture, it's hard to get motivated to do it. But you know, I thought, well, what do we need? We should be able to use the corner posts and the knee braces and the rafters and all those things. Hopefully, I'm going to just operate on that premises so I don't get too discouraged. So what do we need? We need, at best case scenario, 4 pieces. Worst case scenario, we'll have to recut the rafters or the floor joists, but those aren't that big of a deal. So if we did 1 piece a day, we could essentially have the majority of it done in a week. And for those of you guys that are new to the channel and haven't joined, I think perhaps you might enjoy the process from trees to timber. Following this tree right here, it's in close proximity to the cabin location. It's not too far from the house. I've got a nice flat area. I've got good access here. And, well, it'll be, 3rd time's a charm. Let's go sharpen our saw, get our faller kit together, and lay this beauty on the ground. So to take down a big Doug fir tree like that, you need a big, powerful saw. Guys can do it with small saws, but it's a lot better with a big saw. I've got a 441 Magnum, that's my largest saw, with a 32-inch bar, and we want to start with a sharp chain because we might need to be able to move fast if things go pear-shaped on us. You don't want to be fooling around with the dull chain. It's also important to have a good saw kit put together that you can work on your stuff kind of out in the field. It's not such a big deal when you're working around your house, but if you drive a long ways to go get firewood and you take the day off to do it, you don't want to get out there and be without what you need. So again, you know, basic tool kit, file, wrench, to tighten your saw, flat file for your rakers, raker gauges, that type of thing. You should have several chains already pre-sharpened before you go out. You don't want to fool around with it there. Another good tool is a stump vise, and we'll be using this in the future. This is well worth the money, and these are really coming down in price. It's a way you can hold your saw out in the field. And then just a real quick parts kit is a great idea to have. That includes, for me, couple spark plugs and some lubricating oil, an extra drive sprocket down in there in case that gets worn, a couple fuel filters, and I got an old cheap kind of fake Leatherman in there, just because. So I've just got done using this saw to cut some firewood. So I've got I think I've got 5 32-inch chains, and they're all dull. This was the last one, and so before we tackle that, falling that dug, we're going to need to have a sharp chain. So one thing you want to do when you're done with your saw and you put it away, if you're going to put it away from the winter, of course, make sure that you don't leave any gas in it, and you don't store them on the ground. Moisture collects on the ground. A few things that will really help. And if you when you do buy gas, I can't speak for every place in the country, but in the Pacific Northwest, when you buy premium fuel, that means non-ethanol fuel. And non-ethanol fuel won't gum up. It doesn't have all that as many additives in it that make it give you problems later. So one thing you want to do each time that you change your saw or change put a new chain on it is you get a lot of buildup in here. You got grease, oil from the bar oil that's collecting with sawdust, and you want to get rid of that because there's ports that need to stay open in here that keep the bar lubricated. So a good practice is to take your compressor each time and blow all this stuff out, and blow out your air filter. I'll do all this here real quick. And the most critical thing right here is, you see these holes? There's a hole in there. This is the hole for the stud. This hole, that's an oiler hole. And that needs to be free. You can't have that. See, that one's got sawdust in it? That's not going to oil. So this one here, that's the one that was oiling. So each time you change your bar, you'll see sometimes the guys run their bars upside down. The reason being is when you put a new chain on it, you flip your bar over. That way it wears evenly, because it wears more on one side than the other. So just get in the habit of each time you put a chain on, flip your bar, and they'll last twice as long. When you're blowing your saw up, be sure to keep this area clean on the front. This actually is the intake. That's what the saw pulls the air in there to keep the engine cool. There's actually a fan that does that, and this can it'll suck chips into different things. So you want to make sure that that's all clear. That perfect example of why you want to take your saw and blow it off and look at things. It just shows you maybe something that's out of adjustment, or a screw that's coming loose that you can catch before you lose it. Right here when I'm blowing that, you can see there that there's loose, so I can take my wrench and tighten that up. After you get your saw blown off, the last thing you want to do, and save this to last, is check that air filter out. Air filters on the stills are real nice. They can last a long time. They've got this little cover on here that they're such quality saws. They just really are. I mean, when you work on them and the more you get into them, you just see how many years of evolution and attention to detail. I know there's always a big controversy, or a lot of discussion about Husqvarna between Stihl, which one's the best. I've owned both, and I have nothing bad to say about the Husqvarnas. I've had good luck with them. But it just seems to me, I prefer the Stihl. It just the little things. So we can blow this out carefully. Not too much. Wouldn't be a bad idea to stick a little rag in there. Well, for blowing dust and different things around, we don't need any dust getting down in there in the throttle body. But you can see how that grease, that oil, and stuff down there. This is probably the wrong way to do it. It's the way I've always done it. Maybe best to blow from the outside, but I don't put too much pressure on it. And if you keep that, if you use the factory filters and you keep this band on there, that really helps. So we'll blow this out too. Turn it inside out, get both sides. Not sure how timber framing video turned into chainsaw maintenance video, but I'm not going to be rushed on it. This is all part of the process. If this isn't interesting to you, you might, just wait till we get to the more interesting stuff, and come back in a week or two. But there we got that band on there, and everything's clean. I hate to have an air filter off too long. I don't want the chance of anything getting into the intake manifold. So I'll get that closed off. I don't want to be blowing too much air around with that thing off. And that's all ready to go. Gasoline. I take my old gasoline that I drain out, in the fall. I'll put it in this can and save it, the stuff that's a little bit stale. And I use it for cleaning parts. Little gas, wipe off this sap. You get a lot of sap, and pretty soon you add a pound onto your saw from all the sap that collects. So just a little gas on a rag, wipe that down once in a while. We'll keep that all off. Just the importance of inspecting your stuff when you're cleaning it before you use it. You can see right there one of the rub rails for the chain is missing. So had I not, you don't get into this, what do they say, stitch in time saves 9. But we could still operate it without that, but I'll want to get one ordered. So we'll put this back together, and then we'll look to the chain and the bar.